Hello, everyone. Welcome to the, I would call it a panel more than a roundtable discussion on gender equity and the role of women in higher education and in their role as leaders in the global sphere. I am Patricia Nae. I am the coordinator for Civic Engagement Programs at Central European University in Vienna, Austria, and I am working also for the Open Society University Network that BRAC University is also a member of. And I have just arrived in Bangladesh today in the morning, so in case I will be dozing off at some point, it's because of this, not because the discussion is not interesting, but I will try to be as active as possible. And I have the amazing pleasure of moderating a discussion with very insightful and inspiring speakers today. And I would like to first introduce everyone, and then I will give the floor to David, who's the registrar of the BRAC University, to start with an opening speech. So today we are going to have a very interesting discussion together with Professor Ava Hossain, who's the president of the Asia Pacific Academy of Ophthalmology, and who's for the fact that she's the first woman to be holding this position in this international organization, and who has been also teaching younger generations for more than 40 years now, and whose experience and expertise, not only in the field, but also in what it means to stand up, make your voice heard, and also empower other women, is for sure something that everybody present here today would have to learn from. And I cannot wait for all the inspiring insights that you will be presenting today. And then I will move to the speakers that we have online, because we have also we are in a hybrid format today. And I will start with Professor Marufa Akter, who is an associate professor, assistant professor at the Department of Global Studies and Governance in Independent University of Bangladesh. And Dr. Marufa is, for me at least, a very interesting character due to her research on gender politics and women, and also because she has been actually setting the milestones on what is called representation of women in Bangladesh, and even more what is called wait a second, as I forgot the word, even though I have a thesis on that as well. A substantive representation of women in Bangladesh. And I think that up to now, we can see already some synergies that will be formed between the speakers. We can definitely talk about actual steps into holding offices, high offices for women, and then looking at it also from a theoretical point of view. Professor Dr. Marufa has been studying abroad. She holds a PhD and a master's in political science in Germany, and I cannot wait to hear the insights that she will be bringing from a theoretical point of view. And the last speaker, but not the least, is my dear colleague from American University of Central Asia, Zarlash Sharmast. Zarlash, apart from being the coordinator for one of the most successful programs in OSUN, that is the Global Engagement Fellows, Zarlash has been previously serving as a spokesperson for the International Committee of the Red Cross in Kabul. Zarlash is a proud, hardworking Afghan woman who has been doing tremendous work into raising voices of Afghan women, given especially in the recent circumstances where we see the challenges that they are facing. She has been part of the team that has been evacuating a large number of scholars from Afghanistan to OSUN partner institutions. And she has been also creating she's a director and CEO of the project Afghanistan Politics on the Verge of Transformation, that is also bringing to the table a photo storybook titled A Journey from Kabul to Bishkek, basically documenting the whole travel and stories of the Afghan scholars that were forced to leave their countries and move to a safer place. And this is just a small preview of how amazing this discussion is going to be. And without further ado, I will pass it on to David for the opening speech.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, we're all really looking forward to this discussion and appreciation for such a significant event within the Open Society University Network. Thanks to the network, civic engagement with an international dimension is opening up here at BRAC University productively and energetically. On Saturday, we had an outreach session at our beautiful residential campus with several schools and colleges from Dhaka, and Srijan ran an exercise on social entrepreneurship that enthused the visiting students. We just had a round of events for International Women's Day, and there have been some headlines to provoke realization of just how far the world has to go to reach gender parity. The United Nations Secretary General said it could take 300 years at this rate. And it certainly does shake any sense of complacency we may have despite the considerable advances. One of the themes or reference points for this afternoon's discussion is developments in Afghanistan, where we're seeing a systematic attempt to set gender equality at naught. Afghanistan and what's happening there is a reminder of the fragility of society, just how fragile it really is and social progress is, and that everyone needs to become a social activist in order to help build and safeguard an open and inclusive society. We can't take anything for granted. We are profoundly interested in Afghanistan here and conscious of the richness of the contribution of Afghan students to our university life. Of course, the worldwide BRAC movement is based on recognition of the fundamental importance of gender equality and female empowerment really to human flourishing. Recently, we celebrated the conclusion of the 50th birthday of the BRAC movement with tens of thousands at the BRAC 50 Hope Festival in Dhaka. We reflected on the early recognition by Sir Fazle Hassan Abed, our founder, and his team, that female empowerment would be a key to the social, spiritual, and economic prosperity of Bangladesh and beyond. And so it has turned out to be a half a century on. Abed said BRAC's approach has been to put power in the hands of the poor, especially for women and girls. And years later, that approach is entrenched here at the university. The university is expanding projects to promote a form of leadership, female entrepreneurship. One project alone has brought together women from Cambodia, Vietnam, and Bangladesh into our higher education space to work on climate change entrepreneurship. Actually, we've seen some really significant advances over the past 30 years in female participation in higher education across the world, except perhaps in Central and South Asia. But there are so many issues. The underrepresentation of females in senior leadership positions and in research publications, the relatively low numbers of females in science, technology, engineering, and maths, various barriers and issues of depreciation and even harassment. I must say, on a personal level, I've been in universities that pride themselves on their liberal values, and yet I've heard women being talked out of the conversation or talked down. And this sort of thing really has to stop, and we have to challenge ourselves. We have a relatively high population in BRAC University of females compared to the sort of national average. At the moment, at 56% males, 44% females, and 42% of our computer and search engineering students are female, 29% engineering. We've got a long way to go, we think, on engineering, but relatively high proportions nationally speaking, but a long way to go. Now, another cause kind of close to my heart, Sir Fazle Abed encouraged the foundation of Asian University for Women, an institution that aims to recruit talented women eager for social justice, to offer them a good education and to help them become leaders in their countries. It's great to see that most of the alumni return to their countries to serve. Talented women embedding themselves across the world, just as so many BRAC students graduate convinced of the need for social change. And a final point. This session is an opportunity for us to think imaginatively about our blind spots and those whose voices are unheard. It's especially important to consider those who suffer from compounded issues of exclusion that restrict their lives and talents to the loss of anyone. We could all suggest some examples. There's perhaps no better example than females who suffer from disabilities. I've just been traveling with Team Inclusion, a grassroots group of people across Bangladesh seeking to transform attitudes to disability. They don't want sympathy, they want to release their talents. And they're working on a project for Monash University in Australia. And we went to focus groups. And what did we hear? Stories of women, and indeed men, being treated disrespectfully by medical professionals and other professionals and officials, and even of violence and bullying in their personal lives. And we are very conscious on this theme of higher education we're talking about this afternoon. The participation rates of people with disabilities, even at secondary level, is markedly lower than that for those without disabilities. No one really knows the picture. In higher education, according to some World Bank data from 2018, perhaps only 3% of students with disabilities in Bangladesh are entering higher education. We must challenge ourselves as universities to address that. We saw how resourceful many people with disabilities are. They're working together, finding ways to help each other, mitigate their difficulties, and showing real leadership. Perhaps OSUN could help through its commitment to civic engagement to promote transformation and attitudes to disability and serious participation in higher education. And then I've got to be brief. There's also the issue of social exclusion for those with other gender identities, including transgender. Our School of Public Health is showing particular interest in transgender empowerment in higher education. And our students are working with leaders from transgender communities. The Social Impact Lab has been doing just that. Now, finally, on the theme of blind spots, women are recruited to AUW partly because of their commitment to social justice. And yet they often discover, they say this themselves, that they too have blind spots, particularly with regards to students from other ethnic and religious backgrounds. But they meet through residential life in a highly diverse international community and often come to appreciate each other and see life from a new perspective. For example, there are instances of Sinhalese and Tamils from Sri Lanka, communities in conflict, coming to see each other as sisters. Now, it would take a whole other program to think about the process by which that happens, living together, formal education, developing critical thinking skills, learning to see the world from different perspectives. But it's instructive for us to think about this as we address this theme of gender equality and how we really genuinely listen to each other and value each other and use higher education as an arena for doing that. So with those thoughts, really looking forward very much to this discussion, and thank you so much, colleagues, for that. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for the opening speech. And I have already noted down some of your points, and I will be making sure to insert them into the conversation later, because I feel that there are indeed a lot of blind spots that we haven't been able to discover up until now. And I believe that the main takeaway of working and collaborating in international communities such as this one is exactly the power that it gives you to identify these blind spots. So I will start this series of questions with this hope in mind, that by the end of today's discussion, not only we will be able to identify the blind spots, but also we will be able to find out solutions and adapt solutions in order to fill them in, and to make sure that the concept of gender equality is not only on paper and is not only discussed in theoretical terms, but is also being put on the political arena through public policies and through programs that are actually impacting in a positive way this minority that we call women, which is a paradox. right? And this is how I will start. Women are actually the majority in terms of population in the world. However, in each and every state, we realize that women are a political and societal minority for the simple fact that their voice is not heard. And because we are living in societies that are patriarchal, in societies that are ruled and were ruled by men, and that women only recently have started to have a say and to be able to actually participate at the discussion table and be able to produce impacts and produce results for other women and for the better development of the society. And I will have a question that will be, I hope will be answered by all our speakers, but I will start with the speaker that is right next to me, with Professor Ava. First of all, congratulations one more time for being the first, and I hope not the only one, female ophthalmologist to hold the position of the president of the Asia Pacific Academy of the Ophthalmology. And when you hear this achievement, at least for me as a woman, it gives such a boost of motivation, but at the same time, it comes with so many questions. And the first question that comes to my mind when I see powerful women is, what inspired you to pursue such a leadership role? And what challenges have you been faced with while pursuing this leadership role in a male-dominated field?
Thank you so very much, honorable panelist, moderator, and the young leaders in front of me. I would like to say the most important one is that the feelings which I feel that day when it was announced that President Asia Pacific Academy named Professor Ava Hossain from Bangladesh, the very word Bangladesh, the first word Ava, that not make me that much thrilled or that much excited, but the word Bangladesh, she's from Bangladesh, she's the first person from Bangladesh being the president. That struck me very much. And I was, the induction was happened in such a way, there is a very big garland with gold, very broad chain, and the locket, and all the president's name are written in that broad. I can show the picture later on, but it was really, I can't bear the heaviness of that chain. Not chain, but a very thick one. So that also give me when it touches my skin, some, of course, feeling. And the very, very important one is the Bangladesh, that Bangladesh owned this. Bangladesh owned this. Initially, it was thinking when I was just started like them, started my journey to ophthalmology, that is the eye doctor, to be an eye doctor. And that inspiration is very important, that when from the very beginning of my childhood, when I am just 10, 12, 13 years old at that time, I was in the campus of hospital, and I saw a group of people. They are just all right. They are just walking. The first person is the same person, and holding the shoulder of other, they are just going to some place, and that make me, why they are doing this thing, why they are not walking themselves individually. Then I heard that they are all blind and they are taken to the operation theater for surgery. And that was the first beginning in my life that it struck me, and that thing also, that is a very inspiration. another inspiration, that is, my name is Abha. You have heard that thing. Once when I was that age, I said to my father that I don't like this name. Please change the name. He said that, do you know the meaning of your name? I said, no. Then just know it from me. He said, the setting sun, after the sun sets, there is a red glow in the western sky. And that glow, that light means Abha. In Rabindranath Tagore's so many Godhuli Abha, that is the setting glow. And that also, when I became first my fellowship in ophthalmology, my father told that now your name is, you will give light to the blind people. That is also another inspiration for me. But for the leadership, no, not that. But I always take the initiative of doing something from the very beginning of my childhood. And that is next, I became the president of Ophthalmological Society of Bangladesh. I became the counselor of our BCPS, that is Bangladesh College of Physicians Surgeons, from where the FCPS, the fellowship is giving. And in this way, growing up. But I always do one thing, that the communication to everybody. And our time, when I was like you, that time this sort of networking was not there. Now I am moving with a cell phone, which has internet, which has email, which has everything, just mini laptop like. And I do everything with this. So very regularly, you said the question that how I face the challenge of the male dominating, of course. 63 years old is our Asia Pacific Academy of Ophthalmology. This is a very big, as you know, that Asia is a very bigger, and 78 countries include in this region, and also the Pacific region. That means Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, and all others. So including this region, to become a president is really very tough, competitive. And it is not a selection post, it is the election post. Elected. I have to fight with them. And all the male are supporting me. Otherwise, I could not. As because there are only 5 or 6 women in the council. And the others all are the men. So it is very difficult. But I achieved that thing, that I always do the work regularly. Work from the council in the mail, every day searching mail for so many mail, 20, 25 like that. And late night also, I response, very prompt response. So this thing, time to time, 30 years, I am with this organization, Asia Pacific Academy. In 1993, the first Congress, 14th Congress was held in Dhaka. And from then onwards, I am with this academy. And this is a very academic academy. Academy means academic. All over the country, they did their research work that are presented in the Congress scientific session, and huge scientific session. There are so larger, and not only from Asia Pacific region, from America, from Australia, from UK, they are the co-sponsor. Every time our Congress with co-sponsor, this time was US. So when this thing has happened, Daniel was with me, US President of Academy of Ophthalmology. And in this way, we are growing. Sometimes US, sometimes UK, European Association of Academy. So this is very much challenging. And of course, not only that, I have seen one question of you that for global decision making, women leader, this is very, very important. But this should not be alone, not possible. More and more women should be in the council. More and more women should be in the council. And the women should be diversity with all the diverse women. Diversity should be there. Then the decision will come up in that way. So I think this is very challenging. And women have to face lot of difficulty, lot of challenges, lot of obstacles. As because all they are the very younger, they didn't start their life already, but still they've seen the condition of their mother, what she's doing. If she is a working mother, then she has to work a very longer working time. Sorry. And she has to complete his professional work. Then in the house, she has to do a lot of things, the maintenance of family, maintenance of child, and maintenance of cooking, householding, everything. Why not? So these are with this, women are coming up. He said that women are sometimes not doing the research work. It's correct. They didn't have the time to do that, as because a lot of time have engaged with their family. And the priority, according to the priority, I must say that there should be, we have to think that how we will balance the work and family. In that case, according to the priority, sorry. According to the priority, we will do that. And so that doing in that thing, we have to compromise, we have to customize, and that should be a coordination. Then we can fulfill all this. And in this way, we are progressing, but not all everybody can do. There are so many other things also. I will mention one thing that recently, not recently, 2 years back, during COVID period, we know we are stuck of COVID pandemic. And during that time, 2021, at that period, one of our fellow, we have given her the fellowship for 1 year. But she is requesting me, ma'am, I can't go. Why you can't go? That is a very vital for you. It's a glaucoma fellowship. You want to be a glaucoma specialist. The blinding cause glaucoma. Then she said, I have a mentally retarded child, 6-month-old. How I can go? I have to just treating him now. So if you can prolong my fellowship period for some years, then I can. And I did that thing. 21, supposed to go. If she did the fellowship in that period, then her promotion, her updating will be occur at that time. But she missed that thing. On 2024, she will go there. And for 1 year, 2025 up to, she will the learning period. And then after coming, then this gap, who will fill this gap? It's because of her child, a mentally retarded child, not a very healthy child. So these are the situations women has to face. And despite that, she is very hardworking lady, and she is very much initiative taking all the thing. So then she said that I will take my baby there, and then I will do my fellowship this way. So all the thing is coming that women are doing lots of work, and I always say that women should come up ophthalmologist. You know that I was the only one for a period of 8 to 10 years. I motivate my student. Why you are not coming to ophthalmology? That's because this is a female finger. These are very much fine. And surgery is very fine surgery, very delicate surgery. A woman is the best person for a eye specialist. Then they are very much eager to go to gynae-ops, the female disease, as because our country, they are also conservative patients. They didn't want to go to the male patient. So that also, but there are so many. Women are not depriving. Women are, despite there are so many obstacles, they are growing. And this time in medical education, 70% women are got the chance. Do you know? 70%.
Yes.
Only 30% male. This is the result of examination, not a selection. So there was a conversation that day. We are talking all these senior people, we are there, and we are thinking that there should be quota for the male. Because this time 70%, next time 80%. And when 100%, before that we have to build a quota system so that they become the doctor. These are the thing. And another question you...
I have one more question for you, but I think I will do a round of table.
The first question, everything I complete?
Yeah, you did. You told me what inspired you. You also told us what were the challenges, not only for you, but also for the women that are working in the same field with you. And what stayed with me.
One thing, miss, is because I'm the first president from Bangladesh. It's okay. And I'm the first women in Asia Pacific region. That is also a very important thing, that within these 63 years, no women are coming up. But I must say, there are so many women in this region. They are much more talented. They are much more intelligent than me. But they are not coming up. That is the difference. Otherwise, I always said this thing, that they are much more sharp, but they are just lacking behind. This time, I think that everybody told that they will not run, but they will include in this sort of election. They will get the nomination and they will do their best. And another one thing is that the women in the council, that is also how the whole country, they send the representation for regional secretary in the academy. So in the own country, everybody's own country, not the women are coming the top level, the male are coming. So they are the council member of the academy. And in this way, only few are the women in the council. So there are so many women, but they are not coming in the council. Without including in the council, they will never be the go to the bigger post. That is also.
Yeah, and this, I think that it's a sum of multiple causes, right? It's also the lack of models that we don't have models as women. And then it's also the fact that we have, as you just mentioned, we have so many women have so many other priorities, right? They become mothers, they have families to take care of. And also the whole societal pressures and the whole societal image that women are growing up into, that is imprinted in their mindset, and that sometimes poses a challenge for them to try to even get over their own limits and try further. And with this, I think that we can very slowly move towards also a perspective of why there are not enough women in high representative positions, and not only in medicine, but also, for instance, in political sphere or also in higher education. What are the causes, and basically how can we make sure that when the moment that women are making the step of being in front and being a representative of this specific group, how do we make sure, Dr. Marufa, that this is not descriptive representation, meaning that women are not only there just because they have to meet a quota, or just because it looks good for them to be there, but because we are faced with what is called substantive representation. So women are there because they have something to put on the table, they are able to impact other people, and they are taken seriously by their counterparts in a field. And if you could answer this question, I would also very much appreciate if you could tell us what prompted you at the end of the day to study gender politics, and what prompted you to do research on substantive, and it's interesting, substantive representation in Bangladesh. How did you get to that point, and how do you see the situation now, and do you see it as it has evolved since before, or is it stagnating?
Thank you, Patricia, and thank you, everybody, for inviting me in this special occasion where I can actually talk about. And this is my first time, believe me, first time in a session was actually, um, I was introduced by my thesis dissertation, which is very close to my heart. And I feel like this is the kind of, I have produced a child, right? 6 years, 5 years of work. And you have mentioned that at the beginning. I'm really touched by that. But I would like to start with the second question that you have raised. But before that, I want to congratulate all of us, all the women and men today in this room who are celebrating International Women's Day. Remember that we have started with a struggle and it ended up with the celebrations that we are doing. It tells us a lot of stories that we have to struggle. There is a long way to go. So far, we have achieved very little. If we calculate the number of women in the leadership positions, it may take another 100 years to bring the equality. It has been discussed this year, actually, that the way the progress is going, it will take another 100 years to ensure gender equality. So keeping this in mind, I want to start the point that you raised. What prompted me to even study the substantive representations? So again, I have to thank BRAC University, because I was actually worked with BIGD, BRAC Institute of Governance and Development. I started my career as a researcher with BDI. Samia Appa is not here. Actually, Samia Haq and we were actually the same research team. And I was actually working after my master's, I was working with this parliamentarian network that BRAC University hosted. It's a South Asian parliamentary network. It was simply a job for me that moment. And I spent 2.5 years working with women parliamentarians across the South Asia. After spending time talking with them, their challenges, I just felt like I have to study more on this, and especially talking about this South Asian women, where they have, if you can say, they have lack of agencies in terms of how they can bring changes. So that inspired me to work on looking into the parliament, especially in the Bangladesh. And I would say I was not disappointed after my thesis, because the main topic was those women who are in the parliament, both elected and selected, whether they are able to bring positive changes within the parliament. Because again, we have to remember, it's not about only bringing women in the table. It's also giving them space to bring changes. And also in the context of Bangladesh or countries like us, where change requires a lot of effort, and is a very centralized system where you have little scope to bring changes, how women can still work within this system. So that was actually my point, my discussion's point, and I have proved in my dissertations that going through the 5 years of parliamentarian speeches. So I actually looked into parliamentarian speeches and identified how many times women and both men parliamentarians have spoken about women issues, have raised women concern, what kind of concerns they have raised. So I have even categorized as the significant importance issues that talks about inequality, subordinations, and some very political issues, but which is basically partition politics related. How many loans we need to give the poor women, divorced women, all these small things that will not bring changes. And I have discovered in my 5 years of analyzing the parliamentary debates that women parliamentarians did bring women concern issues, specifically equality issues, property rights, very contentious issues. We are still dealing with it. They are the one who brought this and have a debate. Well, now we can talk about whether it was into the policy table or not. That is a different. But if you say that women are whether they're able to raise their voice or not, that they have done. So that's the differences I have shown, and also have shown that is not only women, men did brought women concern issues. And also I went through this outstanding law that we had in 2013, Domestic Violence Act, and I was looking into that whether women parliamentarians or women actors were able to substantively contribute behind the policy making. And yes, it was the civil society, women rights organizations who actually mobilized that and then used the female, I would say, female friendly male politicians and also some women politicians. They collaborated together and they worked for it. So even within the constraint, they have done significant things. You may come up with 100 limitations, right? So it's full of challenges. Even it is full of challenges to bring changes in this context. There we are talking about women issues, which are really left behind all the time. It's the less priority issues you have to remember. So I would say, yes, they have done a tremendous, they have a lot of struggles. I'm not going back to that. The challenges are enormous. Challenge gender norms breaking is enormous. So since I brought this top discussions, I would actually connect it with your first question, where you talked about the substantive representations. And so I would actually like to point out three things, like when we are talking about women's substantive representations. We should not forget one thing, that it's not all women will work for women. So there are diversity. There are diversity that we have to accept it. So we always make a mistakes. And when we essentialist argument that if we bring women on the table, the policy will change, the behavior will change, interest will change. By saying that, we actually make two mistakes. One mistake is we essentially take it like they will bring change and they will learn the game that was controlled by the man, because you have to understand that you are placing women within the institutions which is male dominated institutions. They have no idea before, so we are putting women in a conditions and expecting a lot of things, and when they fail you criticize. So that is, I would say, that is still very challenging for women, those who are in the leadership positions. I am also leading my department and global studies and governance department. Although I received this and it's been 1 year, but I did feel that like I am placed in a positions of where the institutions is not ready yet to see more women, to accept more women on the table. So acceptance is, I think, this is also very challenging. And not only acceptance, but also when you say that, when you stress to this point that they will change, bring changes ultimately, and putting a lot of pressure, overburdening the women who are in the leadership positions without trying to work on the institutions, which are already patriarchal institutions, which are already the systems they have. And this is the feminist institutionalist approach you're talking about, that don't overload women because you have to look into the institutions. They have formal rules which are equal for both, but they do have informal rules which actually discriminatory against women. So one very basic example is when it comes to the recruitment. What are the priority areas the company have? More efficiency, more efficient workforce. Fine. The workforce who can work longer time. And now going back to the women who can now, who have other roles apart from the job. She's a mother, she's a wife, she's a caretaker of the home. So without giving a kind of a suggestions how they can redistribute their household actions and activities, we are putting a lot of pressures that you are like superwomen. No, I'm sorry. I mean, this need to be changed. We are not superwomen. We are human being. We have a limitations. If you want to, because this is also the young generation. I would say I see this among my female students. They often says that, Miss, I have to work very hard. I said, well, yes, you have to get a good grade. I said, no, I have to work hard because I have to also take care of my family and also work hard. I said yes, but you do also have limitations. You are not superwomen. So the responsibility actually, I would say this is the blank spot that we need to work on, how the women's role in the household can be redistributed, because we are not even intervening there. We are not even talking about how about the unpaid care work, how they are going to resolve. They are not like, we have a devi that we call Durga with the 10 hands, and it's a very representational in a sense. Couple of years, a long time years ago, Nijera Kori, there's a national NGO who have actually produced a flyer with a Durga with the 10 hands, and each hand is holding household utensils, including the office, including everything, and then calling that my mother doesn't do anything, she's a housewife. So this kind of a notions we are still. So one point we are talking about bringing more women on the positions, putting in the table, but also at the same time we are not working for reducing their burden. Child care facilities, still we fail to institutionalize it government wise. We do not have this child care afford. How I'm going to expecting a young mother and young employee who has a huge potential to contribute to my organizations where I'm not giving them that kind of facilities. So those kind of a thing, is really impacting our leadership quality. And then again, we are expecting them to, second point that I made, we are expecting them to bring changes without bringing changes in the institution mindset. In the mindset is very important. Let me tell you one funny examples, my own experience. Actually, a couple of days ago, I'm not taking the name. The person is a big name. He was telling me that, why do you only work on gender issues? Because you are graduated in international relations. So I do have international relations expertise, regional, international problems, crisis, conflict, terrorism. I have studied, and then I did public policy, which we all know what is that. And then I did my PhD in political science and women's representations. So I have I had an opportunity to build my career and my expertise on other issues as well. It's not that I do not understand these things or this is too much convenient for me to become a gender expert, but it is my choice that I made. So agency, I would say. My choices are now again questioned after so many years, even at this age of 41, I have been called, why you have to move out. They are suggesting me what areas I should be expertise. It tells you a lot. Given having a position, having everything, still I have questions. Just imagine the young women who are trying to join the STEM educations, for example. Today's we are talking about the higher education thing that family was, no, 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 you don't go. Study, do graduate, and we will find a groom, right? So this is the thing. Still, when you desire, you decide who is a good woman and bad woman, you especially in the before the marriage and everything, then they are saying that my daughter is a very good daughter. She doesn't use even mobile phone. You see, so now in this International Women's Day, we are celebrating digitalizations and how women can. But we are again pointing that my daughter is very innocent. Why? If you use technology, you will be smart. You will have relationship with the other man, and that will actually use it. So we are still half of the society is still fighting, whereas some part is celebrating. And I will actually finish. I will not make a strong statement, but I will finish with this data that when we are talking about digitalizations, that only 22% of women are in this sector, in artificial intelligence workers globally, whereas 73% of women actually suffered online violence. That means how important it is for women to join this workforce, to this sections. Is this about skill? Oh my God, my daughter will drive all the time with a computer. It cannot be accepted in the house, even in educated families. I have experienced that in the COVID period tremendously. I ended up writing an article about how it was struggle for female students to even continue the educations online. It is online. You are in the home, but they were burdened. They say that we are living in a one room, and then everybody is there. It's difficult to concentrate to the study. They are saying, why you study as being a female? But my brother is studying. Nobody is bothering. My mother, my father is not bothering me to give me a glass of water. Help your mother. So I actually ended up writing on this pedagogical challenges that women face during the even online education time. And I would request to read that. It is on Palgrave Macmillan. You can find it fascinating that how women are burdened when even burdened when they are even higher education. So yeah, I was driving. I was going from one part to another part. I think did I manage to answer your question, or I
Yes,
was just
yes,
being
you did.
emotional and moving
Yes.
forward?
Yes, you did. Thank you very much. It was extremely informative, at least for me, because I also do research on women in politics in the Central Eastern part of Europe, and I see a lot of similarities, but this is for yet another discussion. I will take one word, one concept from your answer that I think it leads very well to my next question, and that concept is agency. So agency was taken away for decades when it comes to women in Afghanistan, and even more after 2021. And there has been tremendous efforts coming from the Afghan diaspora, coming from the international higher education arena, in order to help women in Afghanistan not only continue with their studies. For instance, I'm thinking now about the Open Society University Network that opened up online courses for women in Afghanistan. However, one challenge is the lack of access to internet, meaning that this is also not accessible for all the women in there. But we have Zar here, who's been an enormous inspiration for all of us in OSUN when it comes to the efforts that she has put into helping not only women, but Afghan scholars and Afghan youth to continue and pursue their studies and to go out of Afghanistan and start a new life. And Zar, I have two questions for you. So the first one is, how does it feel for women in Afghanistan to be taken their agency away? And how does it feel to be on the other side? And how would you describe the enormous efforts that you, together with your colleagues, have put into trying to help them? And the second one is, could you speak to the specific challenges, but at the same time, opportunities that women in Afghanistan are faced with when pursuing higher education in the current, not only in the current political climate, but also when the moment that they manage to get out of Afghanistan and start a program abroad? And is the support available and the resources available now enough? Are they actually oriented towards proper impact, or are they just how I usually call it, a shout out for help coming from the international community that doesn't necessarily have a proper foundation when it's created? The floor is yours.
Thanks, Patricia. Hi, everyone. I think I don't need to do another introduction. I will try to answer all points of your questions, but if I forget anything, please do let me know. I think the first part of your question was on how does it feel when agency is taken away from women. I don't think that I have to describe that feeling, because we can all imagine how that might feel to be involved in so many different aspects of the society, taken from politics to education to society to all the other, to social life and everything else, and then in a very short period of time have all of that taken away from you without knowing what could happen. It's very difficult, and it's just like, I would just say, imagine you or someone, not even a woman, and I think that we will not, I don't think anyone will really understand how that feels, but we could probably just imagine that. So just imagine that you are able to go to the gym, you're able to go outside and get coffee, you're able to go and sit down with your friends and have lunch and go to your office or go to university and school, hang out with your friends in the evening. And then one day you get an announcement saying that you are not able to do any of this anymore because of so and so reason, no matter how illogical that is to you as a person. And that those are the rules now, and you as a citizen of that particular country, under the role of such kind of government, will have to follow it. So I think just take a couple of seconds to think how that might feel. That's how every single woman and girl felt in Afghanistan in August of 2021, because literally everything was taken away from them. And it was not just difficult for them, it was also difficult for all women, Afghan women, especially outside of Afghanistan, who were, who lost the idea or the hope of being able to return to their home country like they always would. And I feel like it was very frustrating. It was very traumatizing. It still is. It's unacceptable. It's completely unnatural and not normal, and definitely not something that my religion, Islam, would recommend for women, or a human being would think is logical to do such thing to other people. So that's for that. And then I think after everything happened, it took everyone some time to really accept that it is what it is, because in the beginning of the takeover of Afghanistan, there were some promises and there was still some hope as to there probably some things will still remain the same. Probably women will still be able to work. However, one announcement after the other made the situation even worse. At first, there was just a pause on schools and universities until the second announcement. The second announcement, unfortunately, recommended that it's not appropriate for women to go to school or university or work and so on and so forth. A lot of women were sent back home from their offices, and it took a very long period of time for people for Afghans especially to accept that it might be the new normal for Afghan women inside and outside of the country. So when it kind of became more clear and clear that it actually is the new normal, and there was also some hope as to sorry, I'm hearing my voice back, so I'm gonna turn my volume down. If you had questions, please put it in the chat box or raise your hands, because okay, so I think a part of the hope was also the international community is going to do something, the UN Women is going to do something, the women's rights activists are going to do something. Nothing happened. Yes, there were all these protests by very brave Afghan women inside Afghanistan who tried to fight back for their rights, and they are the ones who I would say really fought, because they really took the risk. They went out the street, they were beaten, they were thrown water and gas at until they were sent back to their homes, but fearing their life and fearing not being able to provide for their children stopped them from continuing their protests. When people started to realize that nothing could be done, or nothing really major was done by the international community or organizations that support women, people started to think about ways how could they support women in Afghanistan. And I think that these are mostly Afghan women who are outside of Afghanistan and are able to do something because they understand the sensitivities on the ground. How does it feel to be able to help women inside Afghanistan? It's a blessing, literally. I'm very grateful for being able to be at least outside of Afghanistan for now and brainstorm with other Afghan women and organizations like OSUN and some of the other small organizations that are working for women's rights to be able to create pathways for women to still get some type of education. One of these programs that I initiated is called English and Mindfulness for Women in Afghanistan. It runs through a WhatsApp group, and what we do is basically I consult with the psychology department at AUCA, where I'm currently pursuing my second master's degree in applied psychology. So I speak with my professors. We put together a list of questions, prompts that help women be more mindful, meditate, express their feelings, journal, and we send it through small WhatsApp groups for women in Afghanistan across the country. We now have around 400 women in this program, and we have around 15 mentors who are senior and junior students from American University of Afghanistan and American University in Central Asia, who are helping us with these tasks. The main idea with our program is to help women be more mindful, express their feelings, which is something they need extremely, considering the on-the-ground situation, and also to learn English, practice English writing, and by giving them comments and feedback, we help them learn English as a second language. This is a very small example of a lot of the other programs that are currently being run, mostly by other Afghan women who are outside of the country. And it's not a big thing. I would say it's a very small step. There is a lot more need for other challenges that women face in Afghanistan, but this is all we can do at this time. But we're not stopping here. We're continuously carrying our conversations around what else can we do, how can we do it, because it's not easy to do to provide any kind of help for women in Afghanistan, even if we are abroad, because even with this English and mindfulness, we ask our students to delete the chat messages with us and their mentors, because if education is something that is banned according to the current government, then not appropriate for women, we don't want to endanger them. So that's why we are being very mindful of how this program should be run and how can we do the work that we're doing in a way that is not putting anybody in danger. So I think that covers the second part of the question on how does it feel to help from abroad and what are some of the current ongoing opportunities for women in Afghanistan. Are the resources enough? I think both yes and no. Yes, because there are a lot of resources that are available. No, because using these resources will require a lot of thinking to use them in a way to not put anybody in danger. I know I will give you a quick example of a girl who's studying at Barth College in Berlin, Aisha Khurram, who's also from Afghanistan, and she's a senior student. Now, she had established partnership with 2 universities in the United States to enroll women in those universities, and she also secured some funding for creating an academic educational center on the ground in Afghanistan. And then we got this announcement of, women not being allowed to go and study. And so there is a really big problem of the resources being available, like funding, workforce, people who want to volunteer and work, but the implementation of it is very challenging and complicated and should be done in a way that is, openly speaking, hidden from the current government, because we don't want to put anybody in danger, but also thinking about, even if it is hidden from them, we should be even more careful for not putting anybody in danger. And then I think the last part was, a shout out for help. Yes, there is I think that this is going on everywhere. I think that we should just listen and pay attention to what is needed. Volunteering in programs like English and mindfulness, saying, I heard that you're running this program. I want to be a mentor and I want to, work with 10 students on the ground in Afghanistan. That is help. Figuring out ways. I don't think I'm in a stage that I would really understand how to solve the whole problem, but from where I am, from my experience studying international and comparative politics as my BA and my first MA, and now studying psychology and all my experience, I think a possible way that could solve the problem, or a big shout out for help, would be for all the feminists or all the women's rights activists and organizations like UN Women and all, everybody literally who is affiliated with the word women and women's rights, should come together and negotiate with the current government and say, this is what we're going to give you in return if you allow women to do this and this and that. And I think that could be something. It could be possible. Nothing is impossible. There were governments that suffered from, there were people who suffered from a lot of really terrible regimes, but things changed, and it just took effort. It took connecting. It took using the networks and resources to fight towards those challenges. And I really hope that things would change, because I feel like and maybe in fact it might be the reality that I think women in Afghanistan might be the most suppressed and oppressed group of people and human beings on earth right now, because they are the ones who literally have none of their human rights, not the basic human rights even. And at the end, I would like to, I'm sorry if it was too much. It's a topic that is very close to my heart, and I'm really glad that I was here and I shared and I heard to all these incredible work that is being done in other countries for women, and also was able to share a little bit about my feelings towards women in Afghanistan, being an Afghan woman, and what are some of the things we are currently doing. So thank you.
jump. Right. Thank you so much, Zar. I think that all three responses coming from the three panelists had something in common, but none of them was properly concept. Opa. Okay, now you hear me? Okay, so I was saying thank you very much, Zar, and I went on to say that I felt that there was a concept that was laying around in all three responses today, but was not properly stated or conceptualized or named, and that is solidarity. So what we see here is a lot of blind spots, it's a lot of problems, institutional problems and societal problems coming both top down and bottom up. So we see that we have these problems at the institutional level, the way that institutions are functioning, the way the mentality in a society is created. And then at the same time, we have all these civil society groups, all these civil society organizations and grassroots movements that are trying to advocate for women's voices, to create programs for women's voices, to basically do what UN said in 2001, to create gender mainstreaming in all fields of society. But then I feel that what lacks is solidarity. So we have women feminist organizations that are working both at the local, regional, national, regional, international, and global level, right? But then is this only descriptive? Is this only there just to be there? Or are we actually being able to create a sort of sustainable solidarity where different actors, be it international organizations, be it higher education, be it political arena, come together and are working in solidarity to to solve the gender inequalities, maybe not in 100 years, but in 80. And that is still some sort of, that's pointing out to Dr. Marufa saying that gender inequality will still be on for 100 years. I believe that, and that is also my position coming from Europe, and I see how, regardless where you are geographically, women are struggling with the same issues, and the lack of voice and the lack of proper instruments to amplify the voice of women, and the lack of models, and models are only appearing now, which is amazing, and it's great news that models are slowly appearing in both national and regional international spheres for women to look up to. But then unfortunately, there are no proper instruments for us to make sure that these improvements are sustainable. Because there is one thing to have a sprout. We have a saying, I'm from Romania, and we have a saying in Romanian that you cannot make spring with only one flower. So this is why it's important to have sustainable instruments and models at the same time, women models, and not only in order to fight gender inequality. And it's not about creating quotas, it's about changing the mentality. And it's amazing that the mentality is slowly changing. At the same time, it's unfortunate that we have drawbacks such as Afghanistan, where we see that no matter how great the improvements were at some point, a political decision can change totally the lives of women. So my question is, what, in your own experience, if you were to think of one sustainable approach to fight, even for a bit, gender inequality, what would that be? And after this question, because I'm also trying to be mindful of time, I will open up the discussion I will open up the floor for discussion also with the students. So whoever wants to start.
May I? Hello, may I? Yeah, actually, thank you, Patricia, for bringing this. But I doubt I can give you one solution because it needs a multidimensional intervention. Because the change needs to be done from the family, the community level, within the individual, even women. I mean, you rightly pointed out one thing that we need women role model. We also need the group of women who are motivated to change. As I mentioned, not all women will bring changes, would like to bring changes because normalizations of gender roles, normalization of violence is inherent, is a part of a patriarchal society, and women are also production of a patriarchal society. But there are few women can also bring changes, and we have to actually cultivate those women. The mobilizations needs to be done from the family and also need top down approach, also need to bring policy changes because at the end of the day, that is very important. And remember, the government only bring changes in the policy when there is a demand. So you really is in the democratic system, I mean. But so you need to bring the demand, and it need to go from the women's rights organization, civil society's role, but at the same time, family, education system, mother needs to train their children. That is underlined. This is the bottom line approach. We need a social mobilization, interventions from the state level, and we also need women who are motivated, active, and we need women friendly men who are also very important because this battle cannot be handled by only women because we are 50%. Without the support of 50%, there is no movement, no change. If you like, change the social norms because this is the primary enemy, I would say, at this stage. Gender norms, social norms, you need to have a multidimensional interventions. One way thinking will not bring change. It may needs to wait for another 100 years. But I don't I want all of you students, especially, I can see the faces here, don't lose hope. Small changes also matters. So small changes, if you learn one thing, if you can transfer that lesson to your friend, to your among 10 friends, that means today if you are 20 people, if you spread the message among the 80, not bad, I would say. It's not bad. A long way to go. Yeah.
Thank you. Professor Ava, would you like to go next?
Yeah, okay. For sustainability, yes, Marufa has said from all the level, from family, from institution, from national, from committee, and last of all, from the government, the policy maker. That is a very important thing, of course. But I don't believe that 100 years, this child are waiting to see that happening. That is a not very encouraging, but rather as because if they are now 20 years old, 100 years, that means they will not be in that stage to see. So let us hope that how to sustain it. In the group discussion, they will also find out the way. I think they are the person to raise their voice in all the situation. And I think not only family level is okay, institutional level, they are the person to come forward and say their demand, their voice should be raised, and we all are with them, supporting them, and not women will fight alone. There should be a male person. They are also supporting. Without the support of the family, support of the husband, support of the other members, and also the colleagues, no one can grow. So I think that should be, and that this is the main thing that the younger generation will include in the main council in BRAC Institute. I don't know university how the student can include in your council or in your academic council there also. So in that forum, they can speak out and they can say position, their demand and everything. And it is you person that will be implement. So in this way, they will come up. I think then if this is the way, then we will not wait for longer time. And from institute to the politician to the policymaker, they will also think that this is the time, this is the way. And because Bangladesh is headed by our Prime Minister is women. And for women, she's doing a lot of things, of course. But still, the thing which are arising now, that should also be. So I think step by step, Marufa, I agree fully with Marufa, but still they should come up. Not that they will go to the road and just give slogans, not that. But their voice should be very gentle, but very strong, and they should produce to their own institute. In this way, group by group, it will be, of course, that will be well sustained. One day will come that this is occur. Inclusion should be there. Without inclusion, without that, if percentage of students are 2, then you should include 4 or 6. And gender equality should be there, not that 3 boys and 1 girl, not that.
Thank you very much. David, would you also like to respond? Because I saw you took notes, but no pressure though.
No, thank you.
If not,
thank you. I think we're all reinforced.
We're saying earlier on that society is really fragile. And look at Afghanistan, how so much hope was overturned. And it's so disheartening. But then you think back to previous ages and the impact individuals can have. Think of religions. Christianity is just one example. A few people, and through the process of structure, they end up defeating the entire Roman Empire. How could that be possible? The ideas of a few people defeat a mighty Roman Empire. Things that seem incredibly powerful and monolithic actually turn out themselves to be fragile when individuals start getting involved. I think Dr. Marufa, you were making this point about the multi-dimensional approach that I was thinking intently about that, the story of the BRAC organization. So think about Hazli Ahmed, these people in the cyclone, the early 70s, and the liberation war, the horrendous things that happened in Bangladesh. How must they have felt? They didn't know they were going to have a huge success at the time. But what did they do? They took this, again, multi-dimensional resource, or quite academic approach in a way, of female empowerment. They tried to do all sorts of things: economic empowerment, education, building confidence, looking at what worked and what didn't work, and changing quickly to stop the things that didn't work and to go for the things that did work. And something else Hazli Ahmed realized was that BRAC needed to be really large organizations, scalability, power, so that he could challenge the local power interests that would take the resources, some of them actually male-dominated interests that would have grabbed the resources intended for the impoverished women for themselves. And what a tremendous success that was. I appreciate so many of you, you've all said something about the importance of men. This morning we had the Peace Cafe meeting, and it was interesting, so many men in the room with women. It was wonderful to see those at University for Women, the brothers of some of the students, encouraging their sisters and standing with them as well. So I think finally, just to say, it is very striking. One of the hopes, for instance, for Bangladesh and many other countries is you go around the country and you can see there are thousands of young people who actually are saying, we are going to change something. I met one the other week in Rangpur. Young woman who won a Joy Banker Youth Award. She's currently becoming stopped hundreds of child marriages through her own social entrepreneurship. She escaped child marriage herself. And it was interesting about her sense of humour, down to earth, resourceful, but fiery determination. She just said, I'm not having it. I'm going to help change society. Social impact lab in Iraq University can help with that as well. What a more wonderful thing that these young people can be taught with the encouragement of the older generations as well. Who knows where it's from? So I think I would be optimistic in some ways. I think if we network, as OSUN is helping us to do. Thank you. Thank you. Exactly. It connects, exactly. Yeah.
And then I'm passing on Dar, who's also one of the pillars of connecting students from all over the world and teaching them and preparing them. So Dar, what is yours?
So if we're still discussing the question of a sustainable approach, I think I will just express my own perspective on this. That would be that every person who is, who has any kind of initiative should work on it persistently and not leave it and not work on it and not give up, even if that initiative is very small. We have a saying in our local language. It says "Qatra qatra darya me shawad." I just said it in my own language, but if you translate it to English, it will be when small drops come together, a river or a stream can be made. And so I feel like my perspective on this is that even if we cannot do anything really super big or create the big change that actually is needed, a sustainable approach towards solving problems or towards gender equality would be to continue doing what we're doing, despite it being very hard and difficult at some points. That's it. Patricia, I can't hear you.
I can't hear you.
Sorry, Srija muted me. So I said, I'm going to repeat myself. Thank you very much, Zara. And now can you please write in the chat the translation of your saying, because it was very beautiful and I want to note it down. Because it's totally
have
the
the
opposite
same
of my
saying in Bangla, actually.
My Romanian.
We have the same saying in Bangla too.
Okay, so I think it's a matter of perspective. Apparently Romanians are more negative and more pessimistic. But I'm now opening the floor to questions. So dear students, please be courageous, be brave, and ask our dear panelists anything that is on your mind.
I guess I'll take the floor first. So my question is that, we've talked about it already. This has come up in the discussion already, that in order to do something, we need the male counterparts of the society to be active as well. And sometimes when you talk about feminism, it seems like by establishing equality in the society, they're being stripped of their male privileges. But they need to understand that when we talk about equality, it benefits them as well. It's not just empowering women. It also strips of all the toxic masculinity of the society, all the toxic male norms that we have right now. So what can we do that would make the male counterparts understand that by empowering women, they're not just empowering a certain sector of the society, but also empowering themselves, the whole society itself. So yeah, that would be my question.
Could you also introduce yourself?
Oh, sorry. So hi, I'm Morchi for everyone who knows me and everyone who doesn't. And I am a member of SIL. And I also work for a feminism organization in Porto, and I've been working for transgender rights since 2020, and also very I would say I'm a big advocate for female rights. Yeah, so that would be it.
Thank you. And now, who would like to take the question? All of you can respond, but if Dr. Marufa.
Patricia, if you mind to repeat the question, because I actually could not hear the entire question for the sound.
Can
It
you
broke.
hear me now?
A bit louder, please.
Am I audible?
Perfect.
Okay. So I was saying that when we talk about establishing equality in the society, a lot of the times there's a perception that establishing equality means stripping the male counterpart of their male privileges. And they think that feminism is something that's only to empower women, but not the whole society. So how do we deal with that misconception that feminism is only for women and not for men? And also, how do we make them understand that it's not just stripping of their male privileges, but also empowering them in such a way that it strips off all the toxic masculinity from the society. And I mean, for example, if there's a plain playing field, let's say in the economic sector, men don't have to be the only person to take up the financial responsibility of a family. It can be anyone. And that liberates them in a way. So how do we that propagate into the society? How that we spread that across?
No, good. I take the privilege to go quickly to answer her question. Um, Good question, great question. So I do not have direct answer to that, but I would try to give you kind of a suggestions, because feminist movement is not about the only women's movement. The idea feminist movement initiated that it is a fighting against inequalities. So the feminist actually also talks about the other vulnerable community who are unheard, whose presence are not there. So it's not all, it's all about the women, it's about the community, the group who were absent, whose voice was unheard, who needs to be bring forward. And then it's turned into a women, those who are 50% of the whole population, but they were missing. And then it turns, so people have misconceptions. Sometimes, even if I talked about rights, they said, oh, feminist came. Not everybody is feminist. If we talk about the women rights issues, it's a human rights issues. I think you can also frame this when you are talking that it's not about women and men. It's about ensuring and human rights for everybody. And I think feminist movement actually initiated with that hope that not a single community or group should be lagged behind, should not be unheard. It was completely massive, missing their perceptions. I think you can say that. And by saying that, why do we need to bring women's perspective or perspective who are missing? It can be people with disabilities, it can be the transgender, it can be other minorities communities. But then why it's important? Because it's important because male version was so dominated. So you really need to bring other perspective and versions to bring a better solution. So if you can say, I want to bring a change in policy or make some improvement, then bring every perspective into the table. It can be men, it can be women, equal presentation. So I think it's better not to even say toxic masculinity, because when you say, we know that, but when you frame this, because feminism is all about framing too. It's how you place your argument. That is very important. Keep in mind that you are working with a dominated patriarchal culture. Within this culture, you can just come and say, this is our right. You can just need to frame it. This is important for overall development of the country, the world. You cannot keep 50% of its populations behind and thinking about development. economic development. It cannot happen. You need to bring women force into this. That was the justification liberal feminists actually frame it. So, so there is a lot of history, and I would suggest you to go through the feminist movement's phases, and you would know that it's all about negotiations, starting with a small and then making small changes, and small changes can bring a big changes.
Yeah, I got my answer. I agree that we need to bring more representation. But something I would like to add is that I get that there's misconception and there needs to be negotiation, but what I would want to like put emphasis on is that how do we get this across? How do we break the misconception? Like, obviously, there needs to be negotiation. We have to start with small changes that we cannot have a larger development without the participation. What you just said, I totally agree with that. But how do we make them realize that importance? If anyone else would take that.
I mean, if anybody else would like to answer, you can, because I don't want to dominate and keep talking. Otherwise, I would like to respond quickly to her.
You respond.
Yes, please go ahead and respond.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Again, I don't want to disappoint you, but one solutions may not work in every context. It's very context specific. What you are trying to say, that how do you get it through, is that it's, as I say, that if I take you as a role model, that you will break that misperceptions. You really need to be able to do the networking among the females, partnerships, and even I would say that looking into, I mean, there's no direct answer to that, but thinking about me and how I actually um, break those stereotypes is nothing. Be silent, keep working, and do silent work. I mean, that was my strategy. I was very intelligently try to push all these things that I mentioned, that they were even challenged me why I'm only doing the research in this. This is a misperceptions, I would say. The gender has not been accepted as a discipline yet by the majority. So how do I even tackle? I just simply frame that as I frame this argument as the importance of this subject, and then I try to present myself as a presentable. Presentable is also very important, and role model. You need to be a influencer. I can only say this, and also you need to be very I would say that female rights organizations use that backward channeling, networking. When they actually use the policy change, they actually negotiated. It was a backdoor negotiations, network, maintaining network, and channeling your ideas through. So it depends on, again, context. We can chat, you can reach to me by email. If you need a personal suggestions, I can give, but without knowing the context, it's very difficult even give the single medicine, because my medicine may not work at your cases. But I would say motivation, not get disappointed. That is, I think, mool mantra, and you need to change yourself. Every woman who thinks that they are the women rights advocate, they need to change themselves inside, because, as I said, we are part of a patriarchal society. We normalize many things. We have our own conflict inside, so we need to also work on that. We can keep talking about that, but reach to me anytime, please.
Thank you very
I have
much.
something to add on. I'll be quoting from one of the African writers, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. she writes a book that we should all be feminists. And in this book, she highlights a point that it's not, culture does not make people, but people make culture. So in that sense, it comes back to us. By being feminist, it means that, well, as a person, you're not trying to, this topic, it tries to make many people uncomfortable, but you're trying to bring in a sense of empathy, having that feel of, you feel the situation that is going on, and you can act, you can feel vulnerable, and you are fragile, and so you need to be taken care of. Take an example, like the women who are in Afghanistan being cut out from the education. If the men in power could think of a situation that, how does that feel? Maybe that would change the situation and it would stop the entire leapfrogging. Thank you.
I have a book which says, "Can we be all feminists?" It's completely opposite. So it's a funny, it's a funny topic, become a funny topic, but very important. And we cannot make it to become a funny topic. It is a really serious topic to deal with.
Thank you. Zar, would you want to add something?
So it was really great to be here. I hope you guys have a great continuation of the discussion. It was really nice to virtually meet all of you, and I hope that you continue the great work that you're doing. And I want to also say thank you to Srijan and all his continuous hard work, and BRAC University for organizing this panel and having me a part of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zar.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of the day.
And good luck with your selection process. Let us know who we win finally.